Okay. And
Peter, you'll continue to let folks in.
Yes, I will manage that. Sure, you bet.
Fantastic. Oh, hello everybody. My name is Leo Brem. As Peter said, I'm not too far from you all. I'm down here in Massachusetts, just west of Boston. And I'm most of my career before CatchOn was spent as a school CIO here in Massachusetts, spending most of my career in Sharon and Newton Public Schools, just outside of Boston. And then I got involved with this little startup company called CatchOn. It was founded by a young woman out of Dallas, Texas, named Jenna Draper, who had this idea about figuring out what her little sister was doing on the school-issued computers, and how the teachers had no idea what the kids were actually doing, and the money they were spending, and so on. So she thought she would solve that problem. And then I got involved with that process. And lo and behold, 2.5 years ago, we were acquired by Education Networks of America, who I know does a lot of work in up your way, and was represented here greatly. So, since that time, we have put a lot of development into the CatchOn platform, and it has been, we're on version 3.0. We did rewrite it from the ground up right after the acquisition. And we recently released 3.0, which brought some great new features around monitoring individual user engagement into the tools that are being used at schools. So why don't I dive right in? And along that way to that process, we've always kept keep in mind, I've always had two things in mind, moving that ball forward. I am now the product manager for CatchOn, so I lead the development of the product. And so my job is to listen to what you need, as well as get that into the product, as well as drive a vision to an end where we are trying to help bridge that gap between compliance and informing instruction, right, and driving innovation. And so that's where you're going to see a lot of focus today about, keeping an eye on student data privacy while using this usage information to help us better reach students where they are and better use technology effectively within our schools. So with that, I will share my screen and let me know if you guys can see it. Everyone see my screen okay? I think I see nodding heads, yes. Okay. All right. So welcome to CatchOn Analytics ISD. It is a very nice school district. It is where all students excel and they're all very engaged. This is our fake district. So all the data here is going to look a little plain because it's done by robots in the background to drive these graphs and everything else. Because we take student data privacy very seriously, I wouldn't show you somebody else's data. So bear that in mind as you're looking through here. This is the main dashboard. When you come in, you have you see that we track data in 4 key areas. We're aggregating your users through a rostering process. So we're identifying unique usage on unique devices. So because we're using agents and extensions that are deployed to your fleet, we're able to identify those unique devices, including if they're logging in from a non-district owned device and they're using the Google extension on that device, we will still be able to identify that device. Tracking your licensing and the costs that you're spending on software or tools or applications within your district and your return on investment of that. And then our trending applications. So because we're device-based and we're not a single sign-on tool or we're not some sort of launch pad, we're able to have visibility into everything that's happening on the device. So here is, we give you a running number of tools that are used in the last 7-day window. So these are all 7-day window snapshots here, and how many new applications that were discovered. Now, because we're on a robot site, this is kind of low. I'm not sure if Peter's willing to share what his district is up to on a regular basis in the 7-day window, but nationally, we're averaging between 500 and 700 or so different tools and applications that get used in any 7-day window. And some of our highest in our larger districts are closer to 2,000 different tools and applications being used. So just to give you an idea. Then we allow you to build out dashboards, custom dashboards to steer to whatever your role is in the district. So you could be the math coordinator, so you may want to drill down into what's happening within math classes. Because we're using one roster and getting down to course and section, we're able to drill down into different sections of information and what applications might be used in this case the last 7 days. You are able to jump for those in these particular widgets on these dashboards and customize them for the data that you want to see. Now, maybe in your role, if you're the IT leader or the coordinator, the IT coordinator that is trying to drive this, we allow you to build out dashboards and then share those dashboards out, so you can share them to other people. In this case, it could be principals, it could be a coordinator, but perhaps you want to get others involved in this data. You can build out something that's important to them and share it over to them. Excuse me 1 second. We're also tracking time of day. So when you're looking at our applications usage information, you're going to see that we're able to track in school, out of school. And even before the pandemic, this was extremely important, right? I knew when I was rolling out LMSs or tool sets, the biggest power of technology was trying to engage in learning outside of the school day, right? Because we only see them for 6.5 hours on a non-pandemic time. And then you're trying to use this technology to engage them in learning and into rich content outside of the time that they're in front of us. And now that's even ever more important. So we're able to see patterns of when students are engaging and what time of the day they're engaging with certain tools and what they're doing on the devices. Now, to build out these dashboards, we give you an array of widgets to do that with. And you can put as many as you want on here. And of course, you can then, sorry, let me let this person in. You can then populate your dashboards in that way and obviously share those out and collaborate on them. Could be LMSs, it could be your paid for applications. You're able to customize these widgets in numerous ways. We curate all of the applications that you're going to see in the platform today. And these categories are from the NCES SEDS data. So we align all of our categorizations of applications and tool to the SEDS standard, as well as certain tagging that allows you to do other. Someone have a question? No. To the tagging to certain methods within your district that allow you to do that. So we have internal tags and external tags, and then we also have funding and programmatic tags, as you can see here. So we have multiple ways for you to identify applications that you want to track in groupings, and allows you to do a deeper dive into those tool sets. All right, let me cancel that. Let's hop over into the total users real quick. So in the platform, you're going to see a combination of users and devices and their usage over time. You're going to be able to see the breakdown of the type of devices that are being used or platform that they're accessing. And you'll get an idea of total users versus total active devices, but how many rostered users you have compared to the ones you're expecting. Unfortunately, during the pandemic time, we saw almost 40% drop on average of engaged high schoolers across the country, across all of our districts. And that is something when we talk about in this current time, how we're tracking time on learning, it's very, very difficult, right? So attendance is no longer going to be the primary method by which we can judge whether or not a student is engaging in learning within our schools. So another part of that is this usage information, not just to identify those who aren't engaging, but identify those before they're falling through the cracks. And so we're working with a number of districts across the country on this very thing where CatchOn is the primary tool, but we're identifying, those at-risk populations when they're falling off, and being able to offer the lifelines and scaffold them with the supports that they need. In the district here, you're going to get the breakdown. You're going to get the breakdown by campus. We're going to tell you how many total users are there and how many of them are active, and give you a quick snapshot of that by device and just by population. And we allow you to do any custom time frame as well in these. anytime you see a graph and you see this symbol, everything is downloadable and exportable. So you can grab any of this information for presentations or sharing out in an image, PDF document, obviously just raw CSV file. And we have direct integration with Google Drive throughout the platform, so you could send that right to Sheets. All right, let's hop into trending applications.
Hey, Leo, hold up a sec.
Sure.
Can we pause for questions, maybe?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I get going. You got to reel me in, Peter.
Yeah. I'm still back on the dashboard thing, but anyways, I'm a little behind. But anyways, anybody got questions about what he's just talking about here? You can raise your hand, or Chris Aikens asks, is there an API for querying these reports?
So everything on the screen is driven by API. So if you're looking to bring this into any kind of third-party tool or direct access, the answer is yes. We have a native Power BI plugin if you're running Power BI, and we also have a Google Data Studio, Google Data Studio, I think they call it application or plugin in the library. So if you go to the Google Data Studio today, you'll see that you can install the CatchOn plugin for that as well, right in your dashboard. And we also have a third-party, a straight-up third-party API that you can use your credentials, same credentials you'd log in with. We'd give you the key and secret to be able to access that through a direct API as well.
Quick question, if I can. And I'm sorry if you did already mention this, but you're in school and out of school now that we're in pandemic. You know, we have kids that are in school Monday, Tuesday, not in school the rest of the time. So is that something you can, you know, pull in a cohort and that type of thing? You get that kind of data, because that's what we're.
Yeah, you could definitely group by cohort. But the identifying of in school or out of school right now is kind of just a timestamp. So you identify it district-wide currently.
Time of day.
It's 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. I think for this particular district as identified. And then not quite released yet, it's coming out next week. We actually have a school calendar. So there could be methods by which within the school calendar and your rostering, you could identify cohorts in that method to say, if you're using like an A and B cohort, which is what we're doing here as well.
Yeah, for blue gold, but yes, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you would be able to identify that kind of groupings. So the data can be sliced in numerous ways, and we're open to methods on how you want to do that. Just through the rostering process, we support you know, a standard one roster 1.1 API, one roster 1.0, and 1.1 CSV, and a light rostering CSV that you just wouldn't get course and section with, but you would be able to get your school, your campuses, grade levels, and other things in there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
We got another question here, Leo, and I think it's along the lines of Chris was asking one too.
That is it's a great question.
About the IP thing, yeah.
Yes, so the answer is yes, we are building that in. It is just not here yet. And what that does mean is we do have algorithms we're actually just testing them right now, that just track frequent IP addresses based on volume to determine what your district IPs are, and then be able to identify it in that method. So it's a little more on the fly. So the short answer to that is that yes. When that does happen though, it will be backward compatible when we do release it. So you would be able to see it over time because of the way we aggregate our data using something called Elasticsearch. And so because we could apply new features to this particular data, including other things like subgroups and other data elements that we're bringing to the platform, it would end up being backwards compatible. So, all right.
Quick question on your, you were talking about the LMS dashboard sharing out with people. Is that something you have to manually do, or can you set it up to just auto send those to a group of people or an individual?
So right now they would have to be someone on the platform. It doesn't actually send out a report. We do have an auto reports section that does send out a standard report by district or by campus right now. And I can show you a sample of what that looks like. That gives like a snapshot for the week, in your top applications by engagement and so on. We are going to be growing out the ability for a little more customized report, like to say a summarization of the dashboard or a summarization of a set of widgets, if you will. So we would be able to take a dashboard and select so many widgets for that particular email. So it is probably not due to release until probably like March. Just the way we have some other things that are on there, right? That are just higher importance. But I hear what you're saying. Great idea, though.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Trending applications, one of our favorites. This is where we have the ability to see what's happening live every day, right? So you're able to see what applications are being used. And one of the things that I'm more, that I would want to be interested in is the ones that are new, right? Or the ones that are used the least here. So I see these are being used. And frankly, some of these are actually me, because the agent on my machine feeds into this data. So I know this OneNote usage is mine, as well as this Slack information. So, but perhaps I want to know more about what's being used. Let's see.
Here, hold on, Leo. Let me ask a question here.
Yep.
So on each of these things, like, Zoom, unique users, whatever number, and engagements 91. What's an engagement? What does that mean?
Excellent question. So today, today an engagement means one unique user during 1 clock hour. So if I use Zoom at 1:20 today, that is one engagement in Zoom, and one unique user. If I use it again at 1:30, it's still the same unique user and the same unique engagement. So it wouldn't add again. So if I got out of this meeting and came back to another meeting, chances are good that that's going to happen. That would still be the same engagement. But if at 2 o'clock I go back onto Zoom again, that will be a second engagement of Zoom. So, and the reason for that today is to have a common metric that I could use across all different kinds of apps and tools. And in particular, it was focusing on certain tool sets that may only be used in certain scope and sequence of curriculum. So like Carolina Science was one that I was trying to track in a previous school district. And I knew that they were only using it for certain parts of the curriculum. And so in being able to see that they're actually hitting those parts, I would see a natural dip in that usage data throughout a school year. And it's, and one of the uses of CatchOn is to track professional, the implementation of things as well. So if a district is deploying the use of, say, something simple like Google Classroom, you can have an idea of like who's not using Google Classroom, and then provide the appropriate professional development or ask the right questions about why they're not using something. So that's where the engagement came from. There will be an overlay that I'll go over some of the roadmap information about time on task. Because I think it's important to understand around, when we're trying to track usage using, say, some of our firewall technology or single sign-on tools, they're basing on hit counts and other items. And sometimes when you have multiple methods of getting to a tool set, you're missing the bigger picture, which is why we had so much focus on our agent technology, as opposed to any kind of plugin into a browser or anything of that nature, because there's so many holes or ways around getting there. With login with Google, it's really opened up the world where people are putting direct links in Google Classroom to tools like BrainPop, and you're just bypassing any kind of launch pad that you may have put in place. So trying to use those as collective information has got lots of avenues to get around that. I personally tried to deploy one in a previous school district, and people just didn't go to it because we already adopted login with Google. So we just had to scrap it altogether. Does that answer your question around engagement? I will expand more on that.
For now, it does. I mean, I have more questions about engagement, and you mentioned it too, that whole thing about time on task and measuring that
Yes.
and understanding it and all that. So yeah.
Yes.
But for now, good.
We've nailed down some key items that are becoming in the near future and the distant future, and I'll talk about all of those with you all towards the end.
Okay.
But let's say I want to, do some investigation here, and let's pick something that has a little more usage, like Scratch Junior, and I want to know, where that's being used. So I'm going to be able to see it's being used in Adams Elementary School. 33 unique users and how many engagements they have, and they're using it on their devices. So I have a few things I can do here from this screen. I can approve this application because I feel like it's okay for them to use it. So I'm actually going to add that to my approved applications list. And I'm going to approve it for all grade levels since I think it's appropriate for all of them. And I'm going to approve it for all campuses as well. I'm not going to put any date in here right now because I think Scratch is going to last the test of time, but I could put an expiration date for this particular application so that it reminds me to go back and reapprove it later on. If I had purchased this particular tool, I could upload a purchasing agreement, or perhaps I have a guide for teachers and parents on how to use Scratch. I could probably upload that as well. I'm going to put that in here, and then I'm going to put a little comment here. All right. So, and I do have some options. I can bold and whatnot and do some other things, but don't worry about this because the real text editor is coming next Thursday, so into the platform. Oh, I canceled it. Hold on 1 second. I really do want to approve it.
So what happens if you don't approve it? Can people not use it?
I wish that were the case. We are definitely not a filter yet.
Okay.
Or at all. You can export an unapproved list to send over to your filter, but right now we are not a blocker. This is more informational, and then there's a reason for this particular screen here as well. So let's approve that application. But I want to see who these 33 users are. So let's go check out those 33 users. And here we go. So this jumped us over to a spot called user reporting. You can go directly to this, but from any place on the platform, you can click there and get here through a pre-filter. So here's our 33 users. This is their identifying information. But I want to know when Jaden Farley was using this week. So I'm going to hop into their profile, and I'm going to get an idea of everything that Jaden's been working on. Like the last time they were seen, how their engagements are going. So looks like they're down compared to the previous week. 6 applications are used. Only 3 of them are on our approved list. And then their average engagements per day. And today they've had none. So I'm going to get some in and out of school stats here. And I'm going to see some of their applications and what they're using. Now I'm also going to get a snapshot from a week's perspective of those applications and get an idea of, in school and out of school. But if I click on the date, I'm going to get a breakdown into that day, the hour by hour piece as well. When you're doing this hour by hour, this is giving an idea of what else is being used at the same time, right? When the original thought for this is, if we were to take an average 8th grader on a Wednesday evening between the hours of 7 and 9, what applications am I going to see used in the 7 to 9 window, right? And it's going to be Among Us, Fortnite, Schoology, YouTube, and so on, all the way down. And they're going to get an idea or a snapshot of what the user experience is for this particular user. So you're also going to see those approved apps. And I'm sorry for the barking. I have a puppy. You're going to see all the approved applications. And if it's licensed, you also see a little key for that license. Any questions so far here? All of the tagging and categories that I mentioned before also will carry throughout the platform. Let me go back to users reporting.
Leo, there was one question. Oh, hold on, my screen just jumped.
I see a few in there.
Yep. are in and out of school based upon IP or time. I believe it's the time that you set up for your
Right now
school.
it's time for district-wide. We have a roadmap item that's going to use IP address identification for and an additional in out of school feature
Is there
that
any
will
way
identify.
to prevent the agent from collecting out of school usage on personal devices?
So you can deactivate the agents based on time so that they can stop collecting. So, and it would only work on non-school devices on Chrome, right? Because for Windows, Mac, and iOS, those are all agents you've deployed to devices you manage. Chrome is based on user. So the user extension gets activated when the user logs in through either a Chrome browser or a Chrome book. And if they log in under your domain and it's deployed, it will activate unless you tell it not to work between certain hours. So, and unfortunately can't do it per users, groups of users yet. So, but you can deploy the extension to only students in your OUs if you choose to. In the user section as well, you're also going to have the ability to drill down into your courses and sections as well. So, and this, well, not using Scratch. So this would be Adams Elementary School and this section of English 1. Now, the idea behind this is obviously to start drilling down into section reports, right? To bring some additional value to teachers. Right now, we don't have a teacher view. However, this list can be exported. If we want to know from a district perspective what's happening, and we are going to really be interested in engagements, right? Now, this is fake data. In a real district, you would see some zeros and some ones and twos in here. And those are going to be the ones you're going to want to go and address, right, as the district. Those are the ones who are under engaged, right? And then there's the ones in the middle, right, that have some engagement, but not a lot. And you're going to try to ask the questions why. And you're going to want to get that data to, the support people in those school buildings. So you have this ability over here, this Amazon style of drill down, give access to principals to do the same. And all of it can be exported, and then able to be sorted and broken down that way as well. All right. If we don't have any questions here, I'm going to move on to the next.
Yeah,
section.
hold on. We got a question in the chat here.
Okay.
Matt Gonzalez is asking a question. I saw Zoom on the app list. One need, quote unquote, I have is if we can track licensed users instead of just unique users. I would like to see if folks are utilizing their licenses.
I can tell you who the users are here. Zoom does have a pretty good license dashboard for that as well. If you've Nicole O'Brien, I think, can hook you up, and if Monica's still on here, I'm sure they'd be happy to set up something where we can do a training. So I would imagine many of you have purchased Zoom from us as well. So, but I personally also still help out a small school here in Massachusetts, and I'm doing the same thing there with the Zoom. So that's why I personally know that I can see which of the users who are using their licenses and those who are not in that interface.
Can you upload or import a class list and get a report for just those kiddos?
So you can do that if you're using one roster. That's where this course and section information came from. So that would be your class list, if you will. You can roster them that way and identify them through the upload process. Yes, through the light rostering, you could identify cohorts because we're pretty open with the fields that we have there. So if you put certain field names in there, those kiddos would be identified as that group or that cohort. But we do adopt one roster, which is the standard that allows us to break things down to course and section. So, and we have a dedicated team that can help you with that during any implementation or trial to help you figure out the best way to slice up your data accordingly. All right, let's talk about our applications. So one of the things, well, actually, let me quickly jump over here because I wanted to explain one thing around, yes, SIS integration for rosters, absolutely. I see that question in there. What's the primary SIS used up there, Peter, that most people might be using?
Oh, Power School is pretty overwhelming here. Yeah.
Yeah, they support one roster, one, pretty easily. So
Yeah. Infinite Campus is another one. And,
yep, we integrate with them too.
yeah.
We haven't. There's only a few we haven't run into yet. So we have system engineers that work dedicated for CatchOn that address that. Because of the tagging and the categories throughout the platform, they follow everything. And that includes when you create licenses, you can add programmatic functions and funding. And let me give you a little example of what that looks like. So from anywhere, you'd be able to add a license. So say I wanted to add a license for Quora, I would select the type of licenses that's going to be. Is it going to be site license by a group of sites or a single site? Is it a device or just a per user? Is it a group of campuses or is it district wide? And all the other cost configurations that might weigh into this, including non-recurring costs and a standard licensing fee. What's the length of that license? And is there any supporting documentation around it? Purchase orders, student data agreements, and so on. Funding resources. Here's a big one these days, CARES Act funding. Maybe we all purchased Zoom using that. I know we did here in Rytown. Programmatic funding, art, ELA, STEAM, just to be able to track that information over time. And then once you add a license to that, it becomes identified as a licensed application. When it's also a licensed application, it also creates a profile in what's called My Applications. This is where you can do a deeper dive into the actual usage of the application throughout your district. So you get an idea by platform, by campus. You can drill down into time frames. You get your return on investment overview, like average users over 7 days, percentage of the usage, are you over licensed or under licensed at any given time? And this is actually a request because, believe it or not, there are still districts who are sued for copyright infringement. Believe it or not, it doesn't happen up here all that often. But one of our clients is extremely large, had to pay out $11 million in fines for this a couple years ago. So particularly on tracking that very closely. When the renewals are, so you're going to be able to track your renewals and be able to review those particular items and track those costs. And then you get some of the profile attributes here that I'll show you shortly from the app profiles. But these are internal tags that we use when we curate our profiles, and all of our profiles are curated by educators that are on our team and work for CatchOn. They were former educators. That kind of got out at the right time before a pandemic, go figure. So some of us went back into the K-12. Sorry, Peter, it's a tough time. But the tags are all aligned by the same people. We use a standard taxonomy to do that. So that the same focus on question asking about a product have been applied to all of them equally. And so you can rely on them. But let's say that you found other uses for this particular item. You can add your own tags that are only visible to your district. So, and you could do that from here or from the actual profile. And then these are the SEDS categories. So we start with our grade levels and then our program areas. Now there are 1,600 SEDS categories and tags. We did boil it down to the top 101. So this is, the most common, of course. So, and this helps because in your one roster information and your state reporting information, these are the tags that they use for reporting up to state and nationally. So they align to things like student assessments and other things. So you can start aligning usage information next to student performance information. And you can do that based on those tags. All right. Let's hop over to, we do have a few areas where you can track license costs, by the way, here. Your renewals. And we also allow you to present this information in different ways. So if you wanted to do a line chart and you want to take out some of this information, you have all kinds of ways. And my screen's a little crunched here. Let me squeeze it out here. All kinds of ways to break this data down and create different interpretations of your information. So let's say, I'm actually not doing this well. I think I picked want something with a little more usage. Sorry, ingenuity. Yeah, or if I want to do a stack line, there we go. It's because it's doing it based on devices and users. So you are able to customize the look and feel to get the report that you're looking for here. And of course, it's always exportable in any method that you choose. You can also see your renewals here, see what licenses are open and what are being used. And then you can quickly jump over to a drill down view in your license management section that would tell you what's expired and where you've been. So you can track this year over year without a problem. So let me show, this area is also where you would keep all of your all your licensing information here, both district-wide and down to the campus. And of course, you can run reports based on that. All of our applications library is currently at 3,400 tools or applications. As I mentioned, they are, let me just resort this a little bit. They are constantly being updated, and we do the alignment ourselves, I said internally. But let me pick one that might have some additional information. This one's okay. You know, we try to dress it up a little bit. This one's called UltraKey. It's a freemium application. It's got a free version and a paid version. We give you a snapshot of how many districts have approved it and how many of them may have actually purchased it within our platform. We tag it with certain items. One of the important items is the student login, and I'll show you why shortly. Here's another area to add the tags, a district-wide tag. And then we also have an area to add your own description. So, and then we have a standard description that we've added to it. But this description could be your own description. And maybe it's a reason why you've approved it. Maybe it's a reason why you've licensed it. We're also tracking, we're quickly populating this new field called the terms of service and and the website and the privacy policy. Now, the reason why we're doing that is not only give you quick access to those, but also in some states it's required to publish an approved list of applications for student data privacy purposes, along with direct links to this information. So here, that's where we maintain an approved apps list. This is where you can actually build out an approved apps list and publish it to your community. And you can do that in a few different ways. But let me give you a quick view of what we have in this approved apps list. So any of the information that you've uploaded about it, whether it's a data sharing agreement, privacy policy, parent use guide maybe, or a purchasing agreement, anything like that can be populated here. As of next week, you're going to be able to embed videos here. So perhaps you wanted to put you know, an instructional video about how to use the application or what it might be used for in your school district. So this is an area where we tried to bridge that gap between compliance and innovation. If you have to maintain an approved apps page, you might as well make it and push it out to the public. You might as well make it worthwhile for people to go to it other than that it's approved app. So from here, you'll be able to publish any of this information. So you saw that I approved an app earlier, so that's going to be a new one identified in here. So let me go and find it. And it'll be Scratch Junior. You saw me approve that. This is where I could add extra information if I chose to. I can go over and edit it, or I can upload documents. And the reason why it's marked new is because it's not yet published. So that's where this area comes in. Now we have a lot of options up here. So I don't have to publish everything. I can choose not to publish certain features here because maybe I don't want to share my purchasing agreements out and maybe it's not required. So I do have the ability to do that or hide the public facing page altogether. But perhaps I want to publish a link just for one of my elementary schools and I want that elementary school to be able to put it right on their website. I could pick one of those. And this would be a custom URL just to a pre-filtered list of the applications just for Adams Elementary School. So we do have that option. But this is the district one. and I would be able to preview this. Let's go and view the public list. So this is now published to the world, and I have the capability here to go and see who the approver was. In this case, there was nobody approving it because like, here's one that's approved by me. You'll be able to see the information that I've published about it. The documents will be downloadable, as you can see, and then direct links to the site itself and the privacy policy for people that need to go see that, or the terms of service. We have all kinds of filters that allow you to filter down by certain categories again. So perhaps we like to pick on mathematics, so let's filter the math applications. And is there really 33 of them? I guess there could be. And have the ability to drill down by tags, grade levels. Perhaps I just want to see, you know, the 10th grade applications that are mathematics, and so on. And maybe I just want the ones for Adams Elementary School. So I'm able to see that information and drill down, or have it pre-filtered and drilled down to. I bring up the approved applications list for a reason. We just released a tool that's going to help support data privacy on an ongoing basis, and that's called our privacy policy monitoring tool. Because we contain we hold all those URLs to the privacy policies for all 3,400 of our applications, we are able to then go and audit those on a regular basis. So we use a tool that audits those once a week, and if there's any changes or differences, we report what those differences are. So if you have an approved app, let's say, I think we might have one here. Did I see one? No, hold on 1 second. I thought it said there was one. And our fake data, it's more difficult. There we go. Let's look at the connected. So as you can see, this particular item was deleted, and this one was added. But as that is not as important as other items, that could have been, we will not collect your data was, we will not sell your data was deleted, and it was replaced by, we will sell your data. And that might be important to know. This particular piece came from our friends over at Rick One in New York, who literally have a team of folks hired to review privacy policies on a regular basis and actually look for differences. So I developed this tool with our team, with them in mind, because you can't imagine how hard it must be to maintain staff on that team because of the riveting work of reviewing privacy policies, at least the changes. So, so hopefully this was a relief for them. But what this does is it's something that's actively watching out for you. Anything you have approved or have a license for, you will be sent if there's any changes, you'll be sent an email notification that says you have so many changes and you have a change in one of your applications or 3 of your applications. And you'll click on a link and it'll take you right here to go review them. If there's no changes to any of your approved apps, you won't receive an email. So it's supposed to be a low touch point with a larger ongoing impact of monitoring privacy policy in terms of service changes. Even though they're supposed to let you know about them, you may got a separate email about it, or maybe you didn't get the email, but this is a way to actively be involved in keeping an eye on the applications that you are keeping an eye on, as well as tracking, the approval process. Because of our approved applications capability, you can track the approval process. You can see when the expiration is going to expire, go back and review those applications. And if you have a privacy officer on your staff, they may want to use this tool for that. We do partner with the Student Data Privacy Consortium. I worked with Steve Smith on that when I was at Newton, and we were happy with it here in Massachusetts for sure. And I know he's doing a lot of work there. We do have an integration coming where we'll be able to identify on-file agreements that are with the Student Data Privacy Consortium into our platform. And so there will be some integration there coming As things change a little bit with how that's being used, we're hopeful that we can make it a little easier with that integration, because in the past it has been each vendor, like CatchOn, would have to have a separate privacy agreement with each district in the platform. But I believe that some regional service groups like TECA here in Massachusetts is working with some of you to collectively sign agreements, which will make life a lot easier for a lot of people. However, we will be able to display that, integrate that information here on our dashboard, or you can choose to just track it here as well, because we have that capability to track all that same information. So if there's any questions about that, do let me know.
I was just going to ask about the SDPC thing, so that's great. Yeah,
absolutely.
We use that in Vermont for sure. So yeah,
absolutely. We have API access. We just haven't had a high demand for the integration. We know it's upkeep, so we know it can be done just in our tool as well, you know, by itself. But we'd like to see if we can do some integration, you know, to help it work together. So yeah. About it. Okay, I know there's a lot here, and I'm open to questions. I'm just going to go back and make sure I've touched on just about everything, as we are 10 minutes away from time. Make sure I have enough time to answer any questions and kind of tell you where we're headed. So in the very next month or two, I mentioned time on task, and I mentioned how difficult it is to actually track that information. So along with what you see today in that hourly breakdown on users, we're going to have a separate metric that is going to be something like time on task. We haven't named it yet, but these applications you see that are all being used, let's hop in here, that are being used at the same time. We're going to give you a breakdown in minutes of active window time. So we all know, all of us today on this call probably have no less than 12 or 15 different tabs and browser windows open. If I shared my whole screen, you might be blown away by how many I have open myself. And so one of the ways to help really sharpen this ability to measure what's happening and what the user experience is actual time on task or time in tool or something along those lines. And we're going to be able to, we're going to be adding that capability, starting with our Chrome extension, to tell you how many minutes a certain tool set was the active window on the device. So does that mean the student's actively looking at it? Absolutely not. But it's the best way we could do it without turning the camera on and recording them. Chrome will be coming first. We're not waiting till we have all 4 platforms up and running for that, only because we know how important it is. And so while we're finishing Mac and Windows, and then ultimately iOS through a partnership with Apple to do that, we will be able to offer that to folks who are using Chrome, and we know it's going to bring a better. It's going to tell a better story about what's happening with the student. Yeah. Any questions around that? Okay.
you know, I have more questions about that. Like, I don't know. That's one that I'm struggling with the engagement thing of how, you know, just like you say, I mean, and especially right now, you know, we've been trying to look at, you know, when kids are home during one of our hybrid days, what are they using? How long are they using it? What are they engaged in? You know, how long are they, you know, I mean, what interactions they're having with their teacher, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And I know, you know, we can't get all that. And just like you say, you know, the kid can turn on the thing and go in the other room and do something else for an hour while the, you know, screen's on.
Yeah, like my son does every Wednesday during remote day.
Yeah. So,
And I have to go
you
in there
know,
and chase him, right?
right. So we certainly can't buy naive, but
It is part of the story, right? This
yeah.
is only one part of the story. This isn't the whole idea of a student, right? And we need in-person time. There's no doubt, right? It is the biggest tragedy to happen to education throughout any of our careers, I'm sure, is what's happening right now. And what ed tech can do, and what we're driving at CatchOn is to do the best we can to inform what's happening and give an idea of what's happening in that student's world. And we're seeing not just the ones who are falling through the cracks, but how about the ones just on the cusp? Their parents might be working, they're older, they're working with younger siblings during that remote time to help them with school. So they're only engaging during other hours, with learning, with all the other distractions that are available with our technology. And then there's that evaluation of instructional tools. So, we're partnering with a lot of different folks on the branding of our apps library to help kind of identify tools that are being used. So not just from a data privacy perspective, because we will have Common Sense Media, Student Data Privacy Consortium. We're talking about Future Privacy Forum as another option as well to have in our profile here. But we've got a different approach too, and on the instructional side. So started working with Ed Reports, who, if you're not familiar with Ed Reports, is a nonprofit organization that it's like a consumer reports for content and tool sets. And we're really excited about that work because that's going to start bringing some other lenses of rigor to the tools that are being used. And as CatchOn 4.0 is starting to go into development, that we will be releasing next early summer, late spring, we are really focused on that impact part, right? And the correlation of how these tools are being used and what the supplemental tools are that are supporting the main tools, right? We all may be using Envision's math in our school districts to drive math competency, but do we know that most of them also use ST math or some other peripheral tools that support that structure? And what's the impact on that access to that tool set on student performance? So when we talked about APIs before, one of the main reasons we had APIs developed was to get our data into third-party analytics tools. And so that's why we are working with Power BI, Data Studio, Google Data Studio. We do have a northbound API that's raw that goes into Tableau or Anive. And and then you'll be seeing some interesting things coming from us in that space very, very soon as well. So we know that as we start moving down that path, CatchOn's role as usage analytics is to make it more impactful for not just compliance, but usage analytics, and not just return on investment, but for supporting and scaffolding learning throughout your district. Hey guys, I can go. I love this work if you haven't figured that out. So you have to cut me right off. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going. So. Well,
we had scheduled this for an hour, so we're approaching the we're definitely approaching the hour. We have 3 more minutes. I just so everyone knows who came in late on the call, I did record it. We'll make it available to you. Jeff Miles reached out to. We may be able to stick it behind the Vita-Learn website. And then I'll get a link out to you folks about where it's at if you want to view it again. I'm sure Leo, Nicole, we can reach out to you. I can provide some information on contacts for you folks, and if people want to go a little deeper or those kinds of things. I don't know if there's any last minute questions or anything that people have. Or you can
I'll say, thanks. Thank you for having us. Peter, I was like, New England's my home, and it's exciting to see you and Jeff, working together in Vermont. Though it's going to be really exciting up there. So we're happy to be working with Vita-Learn. And just so you all know, I'm a big supporter of the local ISTE affiliates as a former MassQ president myself. So I'd like to see organizations, doing great stuff. So I'm excited for what's going to be happening up there.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'll just point out, everyone, from the Vita-Learn perspective, as I said in the chat, we've signed on with CatchOn to add them as one of our consortia purchasing partners. So we do have Vita-Learn pricing for CatchOn. It's on the website, but published behind a password because we didn't want to make it kind of a public number because it's a special discount just for us, so to speak. But institutional members, you can log in, you can see that pricing. There's also a link there. You can just click it. It'll send a note off to the CatchOn team to schedule another demo if you want, or to get a sales quote to get more information from them. So that pricing is available, but it is I think slightly over 20% discount on the annual pricing. It's priced per student. So we're very excited about this, and looking forward to seeing what we can get done here. And I think as we get more and more folks using tools like this, it'll help us all kind of better understand, what's working, what's not working, and where we're seeing success or where we need to put more support behind things.
20%, Jeff. You're a good negotiator. I don't think we've ever. Wow.
Well, it goes all the way back to, I worked with Jenna before ENA acquired CatchOn. So
that's right. I remember
all the way back, right?
Yeah.
So there you go.
I remember.
Old friends.
I wasn't going to out you. I wasn't going to out you on that. But
All right. Well, hey, thank you, everyone. I'm gonna stop our recording here. And,
Thank you, everyone, for